Dynamite After Dark here on LOP Radio and also on YouTube. And you're not gonna be hear Jeff quite yet because I forgot to set the audio. So I'm gonna go and do that real quick here before I throw it to him because otherwise you're not gonna hear one of the brilliant things that he says. Of course, even if I do switch it to audio so you can hear me, you're still not gonna hear any brilliant things that he says.
Okay, I didn't say that because I knew you were going to and you didn't have the audio set, but I'm a little pissed you beat me to the punch.
They can't hear you say that either. So.
Oh, well, damn it. Someone can hear me somewhere.
All right, now the audio is set, so now they can hear you, Jeff. What do you have to say?
I have nothing. Nothing to say. I thought the opening match was great. We talked a couple of weeks ago about how Will Ospreay is so good he makes people you don't even know look great, and the fact that we didn't know Dowie James was not necessarily his abilities fault, but the fact that we didn't know, what was it, Alan Ingalls or Angels or whatever the hell his name is,
Alex Angels.
Yeah, Kenny Omega made him look great in spots.
Hey, he looked okay.
He looked good enough to be a threat to Kenny. And I have to give Kenny the same props I gave Will a couple of weeks ago, where that's how great he is he can elevate other people up to his level. And I felt like he did that tonight.
Fair enough. I actually thought this was a lot better this week than it was last week.
Oh my God, much better. Like 300 times better.
But I will say, I do have to say, like starting off the bat with this show, that I see no reason to have a 14-minute main event and have to have a commercial in the middle of it.
I don't really want to comment on that yet because that irritated me. Not necessarily the commercial break. I think the fact that this was going to be Dustin Rhodes' last match and, his retirement match, and we didn't find out about it until hour 1 of this show, and then they threw a commercial break in it.
Oh, I knew about it yesterday.
And regardless, it just... This is the type of thing that should be with a guy of Dustin Rhodes' legacy and just his career, and the fact that he's starting a brand new tag team with Appleboy. What's his name?
QT Marshall.
Yeah. It just didn't hit home. And the fact that they played it up the way they did and then threw a commercial break in the middle of it, just there was no doubt to who was going to win it.
It was all just a bunch of flim flam.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
See what I did there?
Yeah, I did. The fact that and not only that, but then he won the match with a Canadian destroyer that he's calling a Code Red.
Really to be fair, Skiavone called it a Code Red.
Well, somebody called it a Code Red, but that was clearly a Canadian destroyer.
Yeah.
A Code Red is when you flip into a power bomb. This was a flip into a pile driver. That's a Canadian destroyer.
Right.
And that irritated me. It's just the whole main event thing, everything about it, the retirement angle, the commercial break, the missed calls of moves, even Jericho with the I hate him, I love him, I hate him, I love him. By that time, got to a point where we'd already seen that kind of commentary in the Kenny Omega match. So I was done with that. It's just after the whole flim flam video thing, I was just done with tonight's episode.
Well, your point about the destroyer is well taken. Really, Canadian destroyer is a flip pile driver, and a Code Red is a sunset flip driver. So really, definitely, it was a Canadian destroyer.
Once to the head, once
to
the back.
Yeah.
And
one lands in a pinning combination, the other doesn't.
Right. And the fact that and I know what you're saying about the flim flam video, and I'm an avid Snapchat user, and when you're viewing other people's Snapchat videos, in between the videos, like I got friend A, friend B. In between those two friends, I get a commercial. And same thing with B to C and C to D and so on. I see that TikTok video so much that I'm so sick of TikTok that even the generic reference with flim flam bothered me.
You're 45 years old. You should not be that. You should not be that into Snapchat that you're getting distracted watching a wrestling show, watching
Okay,
Snapchat.
I'm 46, and the fact that the TikTok video that I'm referencing is literally 5 to 6 times a day, and they did the exact same dance moves in that TikTok video that bugs the piss out of me anyway.
My point is, if you weren't a 46-year-old man on Snapchat all the time, it wouldn't have been able to get to you like that.
True. It still bugged me. I
thought it was hilarious. I loved especially Jake Hager's version of.
Okay, that was funny.
I thought that was terrific.
Yeah, that was funny too. And Sammy's little flipping and doing everything he did was kind of funny. I felt like the video itself was funny, but I didn't have high hopes for this segment last week, and it pleasantly surprised me. So it's not a huge grasp that I was disappointed this week.
Yeah, I thought it was great this week. I thought it was even better this week than it was last week, and I especially love Sammy. Like, the prize is sanitizer. That's all you had to say.
Well, with him snuggling his cat on the weight bench was great too. I mean, we can't put that, gloss over that. That was pretty funny too. I don't know. I did like Matt Hardy's video.
And then Jake Hager's also saying, you texted me that that he had said to Sammy that you're too beautiful to be sad, but then he followed it up with sadness is for ugly people.
Yeah, that was
just hilarious.
It really was. Sammy, sadness is for ugly people. You're too beautiful to be sad. That was one of the greatest things I've heard. I laughed. I literally laughed out loud. My kid is sitting on the end of the couch watching with me. He's like, "What's so funny, Daddy?" I'm like, "I'll explain it in like 10 years." When you're a little older, I'll explain that because that really.
You might want to wait that long to explain to him that what it means to be assigned as female when you're born at birth as well.
Oh my God, that commercial was rough. I sat there with my jaw dropped open, going, "Really? Are we really watching this?" Assigned as a female at birth. I've literally, the virus has gotten to me. I've seen everything now.
Yeah, I mean, I just want I want to break it to our fans out there that if you have a vagina when you're born, you're not assigned female at birth. You're literally a female.
That was look. I have not a racist bone in my body. I could care less. You do you, whatever. There's no homophobia. There's
if you only do you're not going to get AIDS anyway, and you won't need the drug.
That's a good point. But there's no homophobia with me. One of my best friends is gay. I think we talked about that last week. I don't know about when we were talking about the coronavirus. And one of my closest friends lives in France, and he's married to a guy who's HIV positive, who survived the coronavirus. They, his entire family, Matt and Hervé and even their baby son Nerio all had the coronavirus, and they all survived. And part of the reason why I've kind of relaxed over the last couple of weeks is knowing that a guy who's HIV positive survived. I know I have some underlying health issues and have problems and whatever, but knowing that really was kind of a breath of fresh air. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for their entire family. But at the same time, on my own side, I'm like, wow, if he can survive, I can too.
I'm very happy for your friend living in France too, because as I learned today watching The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, France is full of schlongs. French schlongs.
Why do you think they're living there?
That is a fantastic show. If you have not watched it yet, I highly recommend. It's not yet up our usual alley, but it's so great.
It's on my radar. I've been told about it a couple of times. It's on my one of my lists. I'll definitely get to it at some point, but I'm
It's
still
like watching a series of connected sketches. It's just fantastic.
I'm so wrapped up right now in the Arrowverse that
Hmm.
it's hard to get me out of that. Like I had to force myself to watch Watchmen, and I think I'm forcing myself right now to when we finally get up and going on it, I'm gonna force myself to watch Lock and Key. But my every chance I get right now is Arrowverse, and now
And
that
well, that's kind of funny because Arrowverse is DC and Watchmen is DC. So
yeah, it's just a whole different. I'm when I'm talking about Arrowverse, I'm talking about the CW DC
I know.
lineup because it's a whole different thing. And I'm now I've got 4 different shows going on. I've got a couple more that are coming up here, but right now it's Arrow, it's Flash, it's Supergirl, and now Legends Tomorrow have joined the group. So I'm watching their first episode tonight. So I mean that's 4 hours at a shot to
I know
get
you're
through
not there
one.
yet in Legends, but he might. But I think he's probably popped up on Arrow for you now. I was telling my
Oh,
wife today
Constantine. Oh yeah,
yeah, I was telling my wife today that J.J. Abrams now has a 3 project deal with HBO Max, and one of those is for a show based on Justice League Dark. So I'm just wondering, like, when that actually starts getting produced, is Legends of Tomorrow still going to be on? And if it is Constantine still going to be on that show?
he
Because
has to be.
it'll be very interesting to see 2 different versions of Constantine on television. And I just can't imagine, after seeing his portrayal there, I just can't imagine him being played by anybody else now.
Well,
You
the
know,
the thing I like about the Arrow version of Constantine and of course DC's, when I get there, Legends Tomorrow when I get there, it's the same Constantine that had his own original show, and
yep, he was on the NBC show. Yep.
I loved him in his original series. So seeing him on Arrow was kind of like, oh yeah, this is the John Constantine I know. And then like you said, getting him in the Legends Tomorrow is kind of a treat too. So I'm looking forward to getting there.
Yeah, and I never finished this Constantine. I watched the first 5 or 6 episodes of Constantine, but I never finished the entire series, and it's on DC Universe, so I'm gonna get caught up on that at some point as well.
It's great. It doesn't tie into the Arrowverse at all, so it's something you can do standalone without knowing what's going on in Arrow and Flash and so on. Um, but it's definitely one of my favorites. I was really sad it only got one season.
Yeah, well, at least we get him in the Arrowverse now. So
Yeah, so that's good because he's such a compelling character.
yeah, so we veered off a little bit on a tangent, but
Shocking.
Jeff and I are just totally into DC right now. So um,
I mean, as
anyway,
far as this show goes, I thought we got a great match. I guess I don't want to say great. I don't want to say it was a 5-star classic, but Kenny's match against Alan Ingalls or whatever the hell his name was.
Alex Angels.
It was Alex or was it Alan?
It was Alan
And
Angels.
his
That's right.
last name was Angels. So, but he kept
Yeah,
being
yeah,
called.
yeah. Jericho kept calling him by the wrong name.
Well, that's what it said on his tights though too. Because I
No, it
saw,
didn't.
didn't it? I could have swore it said Ingalls on his tights.
No, it said Angels. It's
Did
like
it?
Jericho said it said Angels too, but no, it said Angels.
I don't know. I was right there with him when he said that, but it was another example of Kenny being Kenny. Kenny has this ability to not only tell a great story, but to do it with anybody in the ring. And even though this wasn't that 5-star classic that we got out of Osprey and Dowie James, this was a very, very good match. And I'm sure Alan Angels is a great wrestler, but I don't know that because Dowie was the heavyweight champion of his company, and he'd been pushed to the moon and everything. So I don't know that Alan Angels is on the same level of a Dowie James, but at the same time, I think you got to see what makes Kenny so special. Because Kenny put over Alan Angels in a way that Lance Archer never did the week before or 2 weeks ago.
Did he face Lance Archer 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, that was his first match. That was
Okay. I didn't realize that.
That was the
Okay.
jobber that after he beat up Marco Stunt, the next week he came in and beat up that jobber, and that was Alan Angels.
Well, at least Marcus Stunt gets another chance against Wardlow next week.
Oh, goody. Wait, did the Wardlow match happen this week?
Yeah.
How did I miss that?
You didn't see Wardlow have a match this week?
No. I saw him advertised.
No, it happened, and he beat some black guy, I think, or is that Brody Lee beat the black? I can't remember.
I don't know.
Brody Lee faced a jobber, and so did Wardlow.
So what you're saying is there was an opening match, there was 3 jobber matches, 2 of them being complete squashes, and then a finals match, and then a main event again this week.
Oh, there was a 6th match because there was also Orange Cassidy taking on Jimmy Havoc.
Okay, yeah, you're right. But there was still 3 squash matches on the show.
And they were still a lot more entertaining than last week's squash matches.
But it's starting to become repetitious. This is the 3rd or 4th week in a row where we've had an opening match, multiple squash matches, and then a main event.
I love squash matches.
I do to a point.
I mean, I've made this argument before so many times that I'm kind of tired of making the argument. But I mean, when you keep having your top guys against each other, or even when you keep having name guys against each other, eventually you run out of matchups and you run out of freshness.
I'm not going to disagree. I do like the squash matches. I just don't want to see them getting into that kind of formula where people are going to turn the channel because they know, okay, we're going to get a great opening match and a great main event, and then we're going to get 3 squash matches in between them so we can turn the channel and see what's on NXT.
Well, I think they have to do that right now because they have such a limited roster to work with.
Yeah,
and that probably is why NXT is beating them in the ratings the last couple of weeks is because NXT you're going to get all NXT wrestlers against NXT wrestlers.
Come on, Santa.
But
Santa, come on.
But in AEW you're going to get whatever roster they have available.
And you're going to get a great opening match, great main event, and then squash matches in between. Maybe let's maybe start with a squash match. Let's roll up the formula a little bit so to keep the general populace guessing what's going to happen. Right now we've got the same formula happening every single week, and it's been a month now with the same formula. Let's mix it up a little.
But you also know you're not going to get the Bucks. You're not going to get Hangman Page. You're not going to get Devil's Triangle. You're not going to get or Death Triangle. I mean, you're not going to get Nyla Rose or Riho. I mean, you know that you're not going to get some of the top people that help this company be successful in their first 6 months of existence.
No,
so
I get that.
It's kind of hard to keep building an audience that way, or to keep an audience going that way.
But it's also hard to bring your audience back to a main event when there's no guessing. When you're literally like you're sitting there, you go, okay, we have that one good match. Let's go over to NXT now because we know we're going to get some good talent there and some good matches there. When we're just going to get squash matches on the other channel.
Mm-hmm. I agree, but I just don't see that they have a choice right now.
I understand. I just think maybe let's mix the formula up a little bit. Let's get a squash match to open the show next week, and maybe a barn burner, middle of the show. Something to keep the audience from leaving.
The other thing that we haven't had the last couple of weeks, well, no, I think we had one last week, but we didn't have a women's match this week, and we haven't had a tag match for a couple of weeks. Well, it's all just straight singles matches.
We get a tag match next week.
Oh, the Best Friends versus
Havoc and Sabian.
I think okay. Well, at least we had a tag match, though. I mean, but yeah, I mean, we haven't had a tag match. I don't think since that main event with He Who I Don't Like to Name and Cody Rhodes, and then their partners in there as well. Sammy Guevara and Darby Allin.
I don't like to name. Really, you're calling them Voldemort? We've gotten that far with Sean Spears that he's now Voldemort.
I couldn't think of his name. I thought I'd be funny about it.
Yeah, well, it was. Um, yeah, you're right. And this week was a glaring omission. There was no females other than Penelope Ford. There was none in the
And
crowd.
Brandy.
Well, I'm Brandy. But there was none in the crowd. There was none. Like the last few weeks, they've kind of kept Britt Baker on TV, where even if she
Who?
wasn't Chelsea Baker,
Okay, sorry.
if she wasn't in the ring with a match or doing a backstage promo, she was in the audience creating some heel heat. And this week we had none of that. We didn't have Sheeta. We didn't have um, Britt Green. We didn't have anybody outside of those two that were basically managers.
Right.
Which I felt like that was something that really missed this week too, because even Britt, as much as we hated her in the beginning, has really found herself in her new role, and she has really been a bright spot over the last month of AEW TV. So not having her even in the stands was a glaring omission this week.
Yeah, I would have loved to see her come out and do some commentary on one of the matches. I mean, why is there like a rule that women can only comment during a women's match? You know.
Well, and I get it. They pre-taped these. These were taped weeks ago, so they might not have realized that Britt was going to hit the way she did. But she has really taken off in her role, and really I hate to say it, outside of the opening and main events, she has been the bright spot of every show.
She's been there. Yeah, I've enjoyed the hell out of her lately. I'm just not, but I mean, you also can't have her wrestle in every single show either, I suppose, and especially in squash matches.
No, but even having her,
but I do think they could have, they definitely could have had at least a female out there this week.
Even if there wasn't a female match, having Britt in the stands, doing her little heel tactics, and whatever that was. A couple weeks ago she argued with I can't remember his name, but he had nothing to do with anything, and she argued with him. She took off her heel and beat down somebody that was thrown into the ring. That match between Sammy and Darby would have been a great spot for her, because when he got crotched on the apron, she could have came up and hit him with her heel, or just yelled at him or something. It would have been a great way to showcase probably the best heel on TV over the last couple of weeks, and given your female division a highlight, and kept something interesting in there that's become a really high spot of the last couple of weeks.
I had a really hard time buying the beginning of that match.
Why? Because it was the exact same as the Revolution match?
Well, it was opposite, but I mean, basically because
Opposite
time,
because it was Sammy and not Darby doing the punishing.
Right.
The whole match.
But no,
that's
not why. You asked me a question that you didn't.
I don't care about your answer.
But I mean, Darby wasn't that beaten down, that being gently placed on a ladder, and then Sammy taking about a minute to climb to the top rope. should have left Darby in the state to stay on top of the ladder to get splashed. So that really took away a lot for me.
I to be honest, I looked forward to this match. I want to see Darby and Sammy. I've wanted to see Darby and Sammy for almost 2 months now, and they keep giving me this garbage to begin the match, and then a short in-ring after the bell production that ultimately leads to Darby winning. I want to see these two guys start to finish, bell to bell, give us what they can give us, and we haven't gotten that yet.
No, and maybe they're holding out for that. I'm not sure why, but maybe they're holding out for that. But at least they did have a lot longer in-ring match than they did at Revolution.
True. Very true.
But there was also 2 commercials during it too, which drove me nuts.
It was just the fact that it was the exact same formula, only reversed. It was Sammy and not Darby this time. When I saw Sammy attack Darby before the bell, and then their little fight, and I saw the ladder come out, and I'm like, oh yeah, here's the table spot. It was too similar to their Revolution match that it really turned me off, and that's sad
But it made
because
sense. I mean, it did make sense for like Jericho was saying for Sammy to do that.
yeah, it did.
For him trying to get the jump, for him trying to get the revenge and the jump on Darby. So I mean, it's hard to condemn them for that. It's just that I didn't think it was pulled off particularly well either.
I wish it had been forgotten what had happened at Revolution. I did not want to see a free TV review of what happened at Revolution. I think that's where my biggest issue was when all that was going on. I was like, oh shit, I've seen this before. I don't care anymore.
Well,
And
and the worst part probably for you is that you talked about how Arlo got to hear you laugh, earlier in the night or later on in the night, but I'm sure he got to see you cry when
cry.
Darby pinned Sammy.
No, because I expected it with the whole, and as much as I wanted it to, we talked about this before. There were only three real winners that we saw coming into this. It's Darby, it's Sammy, and it's Lance Archer. But ultimately, when all that happened 2 weeks ago in the tag match, or 3 weeks ago in the tag match, Darby was going to win this. That was not a outcome that really was in question. So, going into it, kind of thinking Darby was going to win it, and then having Darby actually win it, and then the fact that they really kind of repeated their recipe from Revolution, which, if you look at the whole thing, and the Revolution match, if you take it all into context and look at everything in just this is start to finish storyline, everything going on, it's a 4.5 star match. When you look at bell to bell, it was a 2 star match, and it was the same thing tonight. And they literally repeated a formula that we've seen already. To me,
That's not
that
fair.
was
That's not. It's not. Jeff, you keep saying it was a repeat, but it wasn't. They started off the same way. I agree with you, but not to the extent that the Revolution match was.
no, because the actual
It wasn't
in-ring
that there was
talent.
2/3 of it. It wasn't that there was 2/3 outside the ring this time, like there was the last time. They
No,
actually
and
put on a strong performance in the ring as well.
I'll agree with you. The in-ring stuff was much, much better. But for me personally, I'm saying once I saw that same repeat in the beginning, I was out.
You can't see a same repeat. It's either a repeat or it's the same.
Okay, the repeat. Once I saw the same thing happen from a different angle in the beginning, I was out. Personally, myself, I was out. And that made me sad because I love both these guys. I think both these guys are the future of the business. Sammy is on that Marty Skrull plateau for me. Darby is close behind him. These are two guys that I think are going to carry the business over the next 10 years. And to see what I saw pulled me out of the entire match. And that's just me.
I really don't understand that because I mean, to me, as a Sammy fan, or thinking along those lines, I would be like, well, shouldn't Sammy want to get his revenge and do exactly the same thing? Try to jump Darby from the start this time. And it makes perfect sense he would do that.
It makes perfect sense, but it screamed the same thing, and I didn't want to see the same match between these guys.
See, my problem was not that it happened. My problem was that I didn't think it was done very well.
Okay,
It
makes
just
sense.
it
And
seemed
that's
like
fine.
it seemed like it was just too tame, I guess.
And that's fine. And I get where people are coming from. I'm just saying from my point of view, I didn't want to see the same thing again. I wanted to see a really highly contested. I want to see what these two can do in the ring from bell to bell with nobody getting jumped beforehand, and just see what they can do to each other. I want to see the two of them at the top of their game. We know what Sammy can do. We know what Darby can do. I want to see the two futures of this company square off in the middle of the ring right now with nobody jumping anybody before the bell, nobody putting anyone through a table or anyone, bouncing off a ladder or any of that crap. I just want to see Darby and Sammy bell to bell in the ring. Show me your athleticism, show me your countering, your moves, your storytelling, just show me all of it, but show me it from bell to bell.
Bell to bell in the ring, meaning that there's no stipulations that anybody leaves the ring, they automatically lose by disqualification or get thrown into a tiger.
No,
Tiger Shark Tank.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's taking a little too far. But the two matches we've gotten between the two of them have been 30-minute matches, but 15 minutes of that 30 or 10 minutes of the 20 or whatever has taken place outside the ring before the bell even sounds. You want to, and I said this about the Revolution match. I gave the Revolution match a 2.5 star because of the bell to bell. If you had taken that outside stuff and incorporated it into the actual match, sprinkled it in a little bit here, a little bit there, that would have been a 5-star match for me. But because you had all the outside stuff beforehand, then the bell, then a 10-minute match, it didn't resonate the way I think it could have. And I felt the same way tonight, for the same reasons. You take some of that outside interference, some of that flipping outside, some of the crashing into barricades in the ladder spot, and you sprinkle that in between the actual in-ring stuff, I think it could have told a much better story, and I think it would have been a much better match.
Fair enough. I mean, I always go with the entire presentation. So I think you and I kind of ended with the same result, but yours is because it happened. Mine was because it didn't happen. It wasn't done very well.
Right. So mine was because it didn't happen, I guess, the way that I think it should have. I think it should have happened, and I felt the same way about the Revolution match. It should have happened periodically through the match, not all in the beginning.
And then the main event of tonight's show, I thought I agree with you a lot on that. There was no way that you're going to have Dustin Rhodes' career end in a match where that stipulation is announced, within a day of the match.
Right. And then you have 2 commercial breaks during what could have been a career final match.
Yeah, I mean, they did that thing where they were doing like the vignettes before the match started. They could have done the commercial after the vignette before the actual match started instead of doing it in the middle of the match.
Right.
I thought that was ridiculous. I mean, they go to commercial and then they have like 7 minutes left of the match when they get back from commercial.
A couple things they did spot on tonight that I was really, really, really happy about. I really liked the Matt Hardy Broken segment.
Yeah, that was great.
Where he switched between Broken Matt Hardy and the Vessel Matt Hardy.
Yep.
And had the 2 basically separate interviews. I thought that was brilliant. I loved what they did there so much that might have been the highlight of my night. Because they took the broken Matt Hardy, the over-the-top Matt Hardy, they called attention to the fact that people hate him because he's over the top, but love him because it's so unique. And then they switched that, and they turned it into just plain Matt Hardy talking about Jericho. And I loved it. They called out the Sammy Guevara. They, set up a match, so now the Ultimate Deletion is not necessarily between Hardy and Jericho, which, I said last week could have caused problems. Now it's between Hardy and his understudy in Sammy, who, if Sammy gets the Ultimate Deletion like Jeff Hardy did and makes his way to the Broken Universe, it doesn't hurt him. In fact, it makes Sammy a much more enthralling character, and then you can have the fight for his soul and all that stuff between Jericho and Hardy going forward. You now turned a kind of a 1-match, month-long feud into something that could literally go on for a year and a half. Because now they're battling over Sammy and not battling between each other. I thought it was brilliantly done. I thought everything about it was great, and I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to everything about it.
That's a great point. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun to see kind of Matt Hardy and Jericho battling for who gets to control Sammy or who gets his soul or his essence or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Well, the one thing that bugged me about the Elite deletion, when the deletion happened between Matt and Jeff came over to Matt's side. When the deletion happened between Bray and Matt, Bray came over to Matt's side. I did not want to see a deletion between Hardy and Jericho where the leader of the inner circle now comes over to Jericho's side. The fact that they're throwing Sammy in there as kind of the monkey wrench lets this continue to a point where, okay, Sammy can get beaten, Sammy can get ultimately deleted. We're going to get a whole new character for Sammy that is another thing for a guy who's 24 years old, who's as talented as Sammy is. Now you're going to get Sammy in a whole new light. It could open up so many avenues for him. It can show what he can do on a different scale. And then you can have that ultimate back and forth between Jericho and Hardy going forward. You can turn a month-long segment into a year and a half, depending on how you play it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a cool idea that I saw tonight that I was like, oh God, I hope they do that. I really, really hope they do that.
Yeah, I do too. So, I don't know anything else about tonight's episode?
No, I thought with the exception of their formulatic stuff, maybe the Dustin retirement stuff at the end, I didn't think this was a bad episode. I thought it was much better than last week. I wish we would have done the live, watch along this week as opposed to last week, because this was such a better show. There were a few misses. I thought Brody Lee squash match was kind of a miss. I didn't remember the Wardlow thing. I must have been doing something with my son or something. I don't know. I didn't even see that. But ultimately, I felt like this week was much, much better than last week, and I would be okay with seeing this week continue going forward with just a few tweaks.
Yeah, I thought everything about this episode was better than last week's. I mean, there were some vignettes that were cool. I thought the opening match was better than last week. I thought the squash matches were better than last week. I thought the main event was way better than last week's. And
wow. Yeah.
And I really enjoyed the stuff going on with Cassidy and the Best Friends and the Havoc and Sabian alliance. So, that was a lot of fun, I thought, all the way through this week.
It's nice to get a mid-card feud between alliances when people like Death Triangle and the Jurassic Express and so on and so on aren't available to compete.
Yep. Exactly.
So we're still getting kind of a mid-card feud, something that can last a few weeks without all of the ancillary talent there.
And I'm kind of interested to see who the new member of the Dark Order is, because we kind of saw him in the shadows, and we kind of saw that he was 6'2" and 240. But is he somebody that we should know, or is he just or not?
The Heisman Trophy winner.
Is that what they said? He was a Heisman Trophy winner?
Well, he was when they had the segment beforehand, which is applying to be a member of the Dark Order. He had that article on his laptop saying former Heisman Trophy winner injured.
Oh, okay.
So it's got me intrigued because I really felt like that was a spot for Rusev that would have made sense.
Yeah.
And when they talked about his height and his weight, I was like, that's Rusev. But the whole Heisman Trophy thing has me kind of thrown.
Rusev's got to be more than 240, doesn't he?
No. If he's 240, I'd be surprised.
I would say he's like 270.
You look at people like AJ Styles who are 220, and they're not far off on weight.
Okay.
I mean, I think Dustin Rhodes is being labeled at 280. He looks like a 300-pounder. So,
yeah, I don't know. I kind of always thought that Rusev was like in that 270 range, 265, 270 range.
it's possible. With wrestling, who knows? Hogan was 330 one week and then 285 the next. So who knows?
That's true. That's very true. Maybe also though that it could just definitely be Kurt Hawkins. I mean, we'd all be thrilled about that, right?
Actually, Zack Ryder, I would be. I think Zack Ryder. I'm on record saying.
There's no way that Zack Ryder's 240 pounds, though.
You don't think so?
Not if Hangman Page is 227.
With wrestling weights. I mean, seriously, they say Omega's 220. Omega looks easily 240, 250.
Yeah, I agree.
But when I was thinking about it, it's Zack Ryder is one of those guys who, along with Kurt Hawkins, I think Kurt Hawkins is ridiculously talented, just never connected with the fans. But Zack Ryder has something with the fans that Kurt Hawkins never did, plus the wrestling talent. And I said this before, I said it last week, I said it, ever since the eliminations from, or fire-ins from WWE, that I thought Rusev and the Revival should be the only two that join the WWE or the AEW roster, but I would not be upset if Zack Ryder got that chance too.
Yeah, Miz fan said that he thinks that AEW needs mic guys, which is why he thinks that Rockstar Spud and EC3 and I assume Zack Ryder should show up there. But I mean, to me, I don't think that that's really that's something that AEW is looking for necessarily.
Is Rockstar Spud even wrestling anymore?
Well, he was one of the ones that was Drake Maverick, right? He was one of the ones that was.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, you're right. No, I don't think EC3 I can see, but Rockstar Spud or Drake Maverick, whatever he was going by, no. EC3 has some strong mic skills, but I think they've already got that character with MJF. So as much as I would like to see one of my favorites on my favorite show, I'm gonna say no to that. I think Drake Maverick is a huge plus, especially with the Rockstar, if he could go back to that Rockstar Stud gimmick. But at the same time, I'm going to say no simply because I don't know how well they could use him. Like, EC3 would have to be put in a upper mid-card main event push, because of his name value, because he's a former champion elsewhere, and so on. And he has the mic skills. I just don't know that he's the right fit for what they have when they have MJF. Drake Maverick is another guy that he's great on the mic, but I don't know if his wrestling acumen is what this company needs.
No, I think he'd be great in a manager role, but I don't know that there's anybody there that needs a manager like him either.
No, exactly.
I guess actually it'd be kind of funny to have him work with the Death Triangle.
I was just gonna say that too, to have him be because he's European. So, but with Pac having as strong a mic skills as he does, is there really a need?
No, there's not. That's the thing. Is there a need anywhere for him? And I don't think there is.
Where I think,
You know, I mean, maybe with the hybrid too.
yeah, you know what, that does make sense. That would make sense. He would be a great mouthpiece for them because that might be what they're lacking. They've got unbelievable talent, especially athletic talent, but they don't have a mouthpiece, and he could come into that role and really elevate them.
Yeah. I mean, the only other thing is he could come in as a package along with the Revolt as well. I mean, because
I
people are saying like
hate
Jim
that
Cornette
name. I'm
would be a great
sorry.
mouthpiece for the Revolt.
I hate
I
that
don't. I
name.
think it's great.
The
But
Revolt. The
why do you hate it
resurgence.
so much?
I don't know. The resurgence I like. The revival. The revolt. Come on. Makes me think of puking. I don't want. I don't want to think of puking
Why
when I
does it
think
make
of,
you think of puking?
because it's revolting. I don't know. I don't want to think of that when I think of what could possibly be one of the greatest tag teams if they continue performing the way they did in NXT. They could easily go down as one of the greatest tag teams of all time.
Okay, let me rephrase. What if he came in as the mouthpiece for the top guys?
That I'd be okay with.
All right.
I'm alright with that.
Because they did also trademark top guys, and they also trademarked the Shatter Machine.
Alright, okay, Shatter Machine and top guys I'm okay with. Revolt, not so much.
Well, Shatter Machine is their finishing move.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't want them to call themselves their finishing move. I thought it was stupid when Team 3D did it. So.
Yeah, but they could call themselves Shatter Machine and then change their finishing move to another name.
Okay, whatever.
Regardless, they're one of the few names out there that I think could come in, make an instant impact, become top guys right off the bat, and challenge for the tag team titles and be believable.
You have to admit that the Revolt is a better name than PNP.
No, I don't.
Well, I will admit it for you then.
No, it's not. I mean, at least PNP can be shortened to PNP. We can't shorten Revolt to RVT or something like that.
I think their shirt kind of has like a stylized RV or something like that. Their logo.
No, I don't want it. No, top guys. You're the top guys. Go with that. Seriously, go with that.
You'll get used to it.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
I won't, because I'll always think of drinking too much and being revolted by a really unattractive woman.
You realize that the revolt and revolt, realize that a revolt and revolting are two different things, right?
Doesn't matter. Same connotation.
Oh, there was a great Hagar the Horrible comic where this guy's yelling to the king, "Sir, the peasants are revolting. The peasants are revolting." And Hagar replies, "Yes, they are, aren't they?"
Okay, that's funny. That's really funny. Anyway, guys, you're listening to us on YouTube, hopefully, or lordsofpainradio.net. If you're listening on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell. Also, check us out on Patreon. Next week, we've got another Patreon exclusive. This time, what are we doing? Did I write it down? You're
For
supposed to know.
Patreon?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Ring of
We
Honor
would be
stuff.
doing the Death Before Dishonor 2011.
Death Before Dishonor 2011. Writing it down. Anyway.
And if you get your shit together, we'll cover the first 5 episodes of Lock and Key too.
You know what I can do? I can do that.
Okay.
Actually, I can do that. I have a certain toddler going back to his mom's on Friday. I can carve out 5 episodes. I think I can do that. So,
cool.
Next Monday on YouTube exclusive, we'll do Lock and Key. Get it right here. Hit that notification bell. Ring the, hit the subscriber button, ring the notification bell so you can hear us live on Monday doing the first 5 episodes of Lock and Key. And then on Tuesday, of course, we'll be back here for Kingdom of Honor. And then our Patreon exclusive show will be Death Before Dishonor 2011. And you can get that on patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. You can get a lot of stuff there, and for a small donation, you can keep us happy. You can keep a lot of exclusive content in your eardrums, and we all win. I don't know what to say from that. Also, follow us on Twitter. I'm at RigiCoop. He's at SandmanLOP. And use the hashtag DAD and the hashtag KOH. You can get all this stuff immediately that way.
Well, I just read that the official title for Venom 2 is "Let There Be Carnage."
I'm not mad at that.
That's amazing. That's just amazing.
I'm not mad at that at all.
Me neither. That's great. So we'll be watching this week. In addition to watching Death Before Dishonor 2011, we'll also be watching the first half of Impact's Rebellion, which aired last night on Access TV and should be available on the Impact Plus app on Thursday or Friday. That'll be for Kingdom of Honor on Monday. Stay tuned tomorrow night to MCLOP Radio Adventure. On Friday is WWF The Legacy Series. That's all we've got. We'll try to do better next time. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying
goodbye.